With my 35 years of experience, our team at US Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call US Asset Management today and let's get to work in your financial future. Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with US Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call US Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
And we're back. I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. How are you today? Boy, we have several stories we're working on this afternoon. Not a dull moment. Not a dull moment. I guess the lady, I don't remember her name. I don't even want to focus or take good time out of my day to remember her name, but the really left DSA candidate up in Wisconsin, Democrat for governor, I guess she's going to have plenty of time to make a decision on whether she's going to fix that Thanksgiving Day dinner or not, because she lost. So a lot of elections yesterday in the primary, South Carolina, I think Vermont, Minnesota. Mike Lindell lost his primary challenge for governor there. Minnesota and Wisconsin, just for a few. Let me say this, right? South Carolina, it just frustrates me. Lindsey Graham's sister is in a runoff. She's running for a full term to replace her brother. She has been appointed to finish his term, but a full term. She's on the ballot. She's in a runoff. And this stuff of inheriting a seat, whether it be House of Representatives, State House, State Senate, U.S. Senate. Okay, so we have a lot to go over. We have several stories we're working on. Let me say this to start. And I say this is not Attack Trump Day. It's not. I promise we have about 3 articles we're working on today. But enough with the reflecting pool. Please, Mr. President, Donald J. Trump, I don't want to hear anything else on the reflecting pool. I mean, it's painfully obvious that you hired a guy that I think he sprays bedliner or something. I don't even know. I don't know that the individual was really qualified to take on the reflecting pool. I don't know all the details, but I don't want to hear about the reflecting pool anymore. I don't want to hear Janine Pirro, whoever she is. Pirro, is that her name? Janine, Judge Janine. I don't want to hear it. No more reflecting pool. Deal? Thank you. Okay. So, and then I'm working on a story. This is not Bash Donald Trump Day, I promise, but I'm working on a story and I'm going to go into full detail why the tariffs did not and will not work. You know, you really don't want to say this to the President of the United States. Good initiative, poor judgment. Good initiative, poor judgment. The tariffs will not work, did not work. I'm going to do a full story on that. I figured, you know what? I can't just throw that out there without a full story and explain why. And, you know, there's an old saying, no pain, no gain. And when Donald Trump made campaign promises about the economy, I'm on tape as saying, I did not, you know, I didn't know if the American people were prepared to go through the pain it would take to turn the economy around and put the private sector back at the top instead of government spending, public sector driving the economy. And I was concerned when he was making the promises, would the American people actually go through the pain necessary to turn the economy around and right the ship, right? Just a little side note before we get started. Keep something in mind. If you don't institute taxes, you can't campaign to cut taxes. Interesting. Keep that one in mind. So here we go. Here's one of the stories. Economic proposal aims to expand Rick Jackson's political reach. Now, the candidate for governor, Republican candidate for governor, Rick Jackson, held a press conference in Atlanta this morning. He is trying to appeal to Black-owned businesses, encourage entrepreneurship in these areas of the inner city across the state. He introduced a plan this morning. We will talk about that. Will it work? Here is another one we're working on. Here's a second story, Greg Bluestein. This picture is at the press conference this morning, and they're calling it Opportunity All. Rick Jackson on whether he will campaign with Mike Collins in tandem ticket. That was the question. Remember, I covered what took place this last Saturday on August 10th. We'll get into that. That's our second story. Mike Collins, Rick Jackson, right? Mike Collins, Rick Jackson, and Saturday. Now they're pushing Rick Jackson on will he campaign with Mike Collins. And there's a reason they're doing that. We'll go into full detail in a minute. Here's another one. What does the Alabama, here's my question for you. What does the Alabama governor's race, that's Tommy Tuberville, Alabama Republican U.S. Senator running for governor of Alabama, and Doug Jones, the Democrat. Now keep something in mind over there in Alabama. And we do no roll tide. We do not. But we do one. We do one roll tide. We're going to throw out a roll tide for Noreen. And we wish her well in her recovery from her surgery. That's the only time you're going to hear me say roll tide. Let me get back to Go Dogs. Now, that being said, over there in Alabama, remember, Doug Jones won the special election. The Democrat, he won that special election for U.S. Senate, and he served about 2 years before Alabama flipped back to red with the U.S. Senate seat. So Doug Jones has been he's been around over there in Alabama. The people of Alabama know him. But my question to you was, what does the Alabama governor's race have to do with Georgia? I shall explain. That's a story we're going to go into great detail. So I was going through and, I was thinking about this. What if I wanted to go to Martha's Vineyard? What if I wanted to buy something in Martha's Vineyard, right? And let's just say this. Here is, so this is the story we're going to focus on right now. We're going to go into great detail. So what you see on the screen, now Zillow, as many of you know, Zillow is a real estate website, and it's not MLS, multi-listing services or whatever it's called in real estate, but Zillow is where if you're listing a house, a realtor, it will go up on Zillow. And what Zillow will do is they even put your address. You can go in and put your address in, and it will show that your house is not available for sale, but it will give pictures of your home, and it will give an estimated value of what they think it would bring in that neighborhood. Now, the reason I tell you this, the home you see on the screen, 18 Pacific Ave, Oak Bluffs, Maine, Massachusetts, right? Massachusetts, Martha's Vineyards in Massachusetts, right? Did I get that right? We shall see. 18 Pacific Ave, Oak Bluff. Now, there's the picture of the house on there. Zillow says the current value of that home, it's a 5-bedroom, 4-bath, 2,283 square feet. They say the value right now, if they went to sell that house, would be $2,521,200. $200 on the end. 2.521,200. That's a lot of money for that house. So every single time they mention the media, now let's spin the media right in here. Media spin, no pun intended. But every time the media likes to say Rick Jackson, they like to say billionaire Rick Jackson. Democrats like to post when they're attacking the Republican candidate in Georgia. They like to say billionaire Rick Jackson. Okay. How come they don't say Martha's Vineyard, Keisha Lance Bottoms? Why don't they say that? Why don't they say part-time resident Martha's Vineyard, former Atlanta mayor, former Biden administration employee? Why not? Right? Now, billionaire Rick Jackson. They like to say that. Okay. They like to say billionaire, healthcare billionaire Rick Jackson, who secured $1 billion. Was it $1 billion? Was it? That's a lot of money. Of no big contracts with the state of Georgia. Okay. All right. But how come no one, no media, AJC, anyone will say part-time resident, part-time Martha's Vineyard resident, former Joe Biden administration staff, former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms? Why not? This is her home that her and her husband purchased in Martha Vineyard. Now, I mean, the reason I have been waiting to do this story, and I'm going to tell you why, because I knew it would come up sooner or later. I mean, she's not poor, and that's okay. I mean, I don't want to alarm Democrats out there, but let me just say this to Democrats. That's okay. Capitalism, true Free market capitalism is okay. No government infusions, right? Free market capitalism is okay. You see, here it is, Vineyard Icon Awards. Excellence in Public Leadership. Keisha Lance Bottoms, former mayor of Alpharetta and senior advisor to President Biden, Martha's Vineyard 2025. So in 2025, she received an award, a Vineyard Icon Award. And here they tell you, former mayor of Atlanta, former advisor to President Biden. Just saying. Martha's Vineyard 2025. Introducing Keisha Lance Bottom, right? Excellence in Public Leadership. Vineyard homeowner, she's a homeowner, mayor of Atlanta, former senior advisor to President Joe Biden, now a 2026 candidate for Georgia governor. Keisha Lance Bottoms is a national voice for justice and equality, known for leading Atlanta through the pandemic. You sure? You sure about that? You know, you ever see that meme? You sure about that? Leading Atlanta through the pandemic. I would like for you to ask Atlanta police officers during the time of the riots how they feel, or how they felt at that time or feel today about Keisha Lance Bottoms' leadership through the pandemic. Advancing civil rights, expanding affordable housing, and transforming the White House of public engagement. She is the first mayor in Atlanta's history to serve in all three branches of government. There you go, Keisha Lance Bottoms. Right up there in Martha's Vineyard. I mean, hey, that's okay. Now, I mean, the reason I'm saying this is affordability. She knows where you're coming from. She understands you. She knows where you're at in life. She knows you're struggling. So I went on there and I asked the question, yes, Keisha Lance Bottoms owns a home on Martha's Vineyard from the AJC. I want to give a special shout out to James Magazine online and Phil Kent, directly to Phil Kent and James Magazine online for having this research available, and they do. She and her husband, Derek Bottoms, purchased the property located in the town of Oak Bluffs in June of 2016. She remains a homeowner there today, as there are no public records indicating the property has been sold, and it continues to be referred as her family's second home. Just wanted to be clear, she still owns it today. All right. Now, again, thank you very much to James Magazine. And this is the Vineyard Gazette. According to public real estate records, Keisha Lance Bottoms and her husband, Derek W. Bottoms, paid $1,010,000 for their home in Oak Bluffs on June 7th, 2016. So all the way back in 2016, they had that kind of money. That's what it shows they paid. That's what they recorded. These records are publicly available, and the sale was documented in local publications such as the real estate transaction listing in the Vineyard Gazette. Additional reporting notes that the property was financed with an $808,000 mortgage, implying a $202,000 down payment. So, I mean, what's the big deal? And why do I do this story now? Why now? Well, I'll tell you why I'm doing this story right now. Because when I say they are all, Democrats are having a big powwow over at the house in Martha Vineyard. Democrats, Georgia Democrats, let me try that one more time. Georgia Democrats are having a big powwow over in Martha's Vineyard right now. Here is a post Cora Masters Berry put up. Today is the 12th, and this is a post from August 10th. Black women leaders in Martha's Vineyard. In Martha's Vineyard, a power trio. Senator Angela Alsobrooks, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, future Governor Keisha Lance Bottoms, Black Magic Women. So they are up there in, right? They are up there in Martha's Vineyard now, right now. And here is the house. Now, I will say this, truth and honesty in reporting here. Zillow does, many times they don't get the actual value correct. It could be higher, it could be lower. All right. So, but Zillow says right now to expect if the Bottoms would sell this home in Martha's Vineyard, it would be $2,521,200 at 18 Pacific Ave, Oaks Bluff, is what they say the value of this home is, and it could be put on the market for. 5-bedroom, 4-bath, 2,283 square feet. So look, we're not knocking, not at all, that the Bottoms family has some money. That's okay. It's America. Where they make the money. They want to attack Rick Jackson and say he received money from the government. Where exactly did all the income, where did everything come from? All the funding for the Bottoms, where's that money come from? The Biden administration, she worked there. I don't know the husband's job, his background, his employment, know nothing about their finances. But the facts are, she's pretty wealthy herself, right? And somehow she made money in capitalism or government. She made money, the Bottoms made money to afford these kind of luxuries and go to Martha's Vineyard through the private sector or the public sector. So every time you hear billionaire Rick Jackson and you hear taxpayer money and got rich off the taxpayers, Keisha Lance Bottoms vacationing in her second home at Martha's Vineyard. Just saying. So, well, that's one of the stories I wanted to do today. I'm going to return. I just wanted to do that one quickly and let you know they're up there in strategy. Democrats are serious. Now, when I say the majority of the Democrat statewide ticket, the majority of the candidates are black women. And I'm not going to venture into the others, but there's other candidates up there with her. They're definitely up there putting strategy together. They're meeting with the Democrat Governors Association, the Democrat Secretary of State Association. Oh, they're meeting with several, have come in, high-powered power brokers on the Democrat side from the United States is up there right now. And there's, what did George Bush strategery? They're going, did George W. Bush say, remember, was it strategery? They're going over their strategery. I don't know. I just thought he said that at one time. So, folks, when we come back, we're going to go look everything up yourself. I just tell you this because the media won't. The media will not. Where, I would like for you to send me a message and tell me where in the media, anywhere, has anyone told you that Keisha Lance Bottoms owns a second home at Martha's Vineyard? Have they? Now, campaign distance. Mike Collins and Rick Jackson. So when we return, we're going to talk about campaign distance. And Rick Jackson, Mike Collins, let me correct that. Mike Collins, I don't want to say can't catch a break. I mean, the guy is a two-term congressman, right? The guy's been in D.C. He's running for Senate. He knows how it works. He's campaigned in the past. So I can't totally say Mike Collins can't catch a break. There's a little bit of Mike Collins' campaign that I'd have to call, all due respect, amateur hour. Yes, I will explain in our next segment. So I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a little break, and we'll be back here real soon with our next story.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future. Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with U.S. Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call U.S. Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
And we're back. I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. I hope everyone is doing well. You know, folks, I want to say thank you. I always want to say thank you. I appreciate you very much. I've had some very nice comments. I get the uglies, I call them the uglies. I get those comments, the people that just say nasty stuff. They have nothing constructive to say. People that watch this program, new to the program, new to our Substack feed, or old timers. I love critique. I love when you send me, how you see it. I love that. I could take that all day long. I love the messages and I appreciate it. So thank you so much for the kind words. Thank you so much when you say, hey, I share your Substack article with others. And you could follow us on Voice of Rural America, our Rumble channel, YouTube channel, and Facebook page, and then Voice of Rural America on X. Our Substack is Vora, V-O-R-A, BKP Politics, our Substack. That's where we post our articles. So, I was talking to two different people, and I was saying Mike Collins can't break through. And I want Mike Collins to be able to break through. I want to be very clear on this program. I am not advocating, supporting in any way whatsoever Jon Ossoff to get another 6-year term as a Democrat here in Georgia. I don't want to see that happen. But Mike Collins cannot break through. And I'm going to say this. I have talked about the media. I talk about the media and how, they, let me get this up here. Campaign distance. Now, what you see on your screen is a picture of Rick Jackson, the candidate for governor, and Mike Collins, the candidate for Senate on the Republican ticket. Rick Jackson running against Keisha Lance Bottoms for governor, and Mike Collins running against the sitting U.S. Senator, Democrat Jon Ossoff. So the media doesn't want to talk about policy. They don't want to talk about affordability. They act like they're worried about you. They act like that they're trying to get candidates to talk about the price of gas and food and so forth, but not really, folks. Not really. Because when it comes to Keisha Lance Bottoms and it comes to Jon Ossoff, they're very quick to talk about or make it look like they care, they're compassionate, and they understand how you feel. Although Jon Ossoff is a trust fund baby, has no idea or understanding financially where you're coming from, or at least I am. I'll speak for myself. Same thing with Martha's Vineyard homeowner, Biden administration, senior advisor, former mayor that burnt down Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms. There you go. But they want to lead you to believe they have a plan, they understand you, they feel your pain. But when it comes to Rick Jackson and Mike Collins, they don't want to ask them about a plan for you and I, or America First, or affordability and the price of gas, whatever it may be. They just want to attack and keep going after those candidates. And the big question is, Jon Ossoff and Keisha Lance Bottoms appear, because the media is making it look that way, that they're campaigning together. And that Rick Jackson is distancing himself from Mike Collins. So let's start right there. Now, Mike Collins, his campaign from the start has been amateur hour. I promise you, please, let me pause for a second to allow you to hurl insults, get angry, say something to me, whatever. Throw a tomato at the screen. Okay, are you done? Mike Collins' campaign has been amateur hour. He's running a U.S. Senate campaign, so he starts out with a campaign manager, also his chief of staff in his congressional office, Brandon Phillips. He knows right from the start he should have never launched a campaign with Brandon Phillips by his side. He knows that. But he does it anyway. And what does he think? I don't know. That the media would give him a pass? No, the media does not give Republicans a pass. They don't like you. So that's amateur hour number one. So when he walked into that and the media went after him and he could not get his message out about Laken Riley Act and and he couldn't get his message out about, passing bills that Joe Biden signed and Donald Trump signed, and how he could work with lawmakers and, be a very good senator for the citizens of Georgia. He can't get that out because he starts out with Brandon Phillips. Okay. So that explodes. He does not handle it. It is pushed on him to where finally Brandon does something stupid, ignorant that we all expected out of Brandon Phillips sooner or later. And Mike Collins has to make a move, not come up front and make the move. Then what's he do? He puts a second chief of staff in there that has similar, different, but similar issues, right? And those get exposed, so he has to distance himself from the second chief of staff, all right? Now, I'm going to share something with you that I'm going to tell you how it works. And sometimes out there, I get people that get upset when I tell you how it works. I'm not advocating how it works because it's happened to me, and I'll tell you in a minute. So that was the second amateur hour. Now, the third amateur hour is not going through all of his family's social media and figure out who said something, right? We just found, Abdul El Sayed on a hot mic saying the peninsula up there, right? I think you have to take a ferry to get there in Michigan. Absolutely beautiful. That he doesn't like Mackinac. It's Mackinac, right? District. He doesn't like Mackinac District of Michigan. Hot mic, right? Boom. Then you have the lady that was running for Wisconsin on the Democrat ticket said, abolish Thanksgiving. And then you have deleted videos from Abdul El Sayed. I'm just making an example where, he wanted to replace fireworks and he's got some Second Amendment issues. So, when you go into these campaigns, you got to get the family together. What do you have in the background? What do we have to talk about? What do we need to get out in front of, right? He has the son-in-law issue. Amateur hour number 3. So the media is going to keep piling on this. I know you hate the media. I get it. You're standing there saying, but there's so many good policy, proposals that Mike Collins has that he wants to get out. And he's really talking about hardworking Georgians and how he wants to represent them in the Senate. And no one's listening. Well, right, the media is not going to give him breath. They're not going to give him daylight. But keep in mind, all these things that are coming up, these are things that when you're running for Senate and you sit down, right, ask Marty Huggins. When you figure out who that is, let me know. Ask Marty Huggins about that meeting, right? You remember when Marty Huggins had to sit down at the dinner table and talk to his wife and kids? Was there anything they needed to know? I won't belabor that, but, right? Remember that? That is 101. I'm running for office 101. So there you go. Boom. Now, when you're running for U.S. Senate, these candidates guard themselves. They guard themselves. All right? Even Rick Jackson, it doesn't matter who. They have security. They're running for major offices. They have people watching the room. They go in. Let me tell you what happens. They go into a room and they're getting ready to give a speech, and they get 2 or 3 of the locals together and say, can you go through the room and help me point out anyone in this room that we have to be concerned about? All of that takes place. Your campaign calls up front. I know it for a fact. I've seen the Rick Jackson campaign do it. In fact, the Rick Jackson campaign, even knowing I'm voting for him, pointed me out in the crowd Saturday to their security. Yes. I mean, hey, that's the way it works. That's what they do. So you go up front to every stop and make sure you've scanned the room. You only take questions from certain people. I know you don't like that, but that's how it works. Savannah. Mike Collins is in the room. Amateur hour. Sorry. Now, campaign distance. You think Rick Jackson is going to campaign with this guy? Well, they took a picture together Saturday. I've explained that, and I will explain it again. Boxing Collins in. This is making the circuit. When I call it, this is making the social media rounds. This video's gone viral. This is not a segment attacking anyone involved January 6th. It's not. But if you were involved in January 6th and you want to see Donald Trump have a majority in the Senate, and you want a senator to go up there and, support you, you don't stand up and ask these kind of questions. So, boxing Collins in. A Georgia man who participated in the United States Capitol riot on January 6, 2021, tried to get U.S. Representative Mike Collins to back a plan allowing people charged that day to receive payment from the federal government, right? Dominic Box posed the question to Collins during a campaign stop in Savannah on Tuesday, and he took it as a victory when Collins, the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate, responded and agreed that people who have been harmed by the federal government should be compensated. Well, you and I know Mike Collins is going to tell you and I that, hey, if the federal government violates your rights, violates your privacy, yes, you should have a way to be compensated for what they've done. Look at the people. Forget January 6th for just a minute. Look at the people during the Biden administration, right? The Catholics praying at the abortion clinic. The mom, remember the mom that was put in jail that President Trump released that was praying outside of an abortion clinic, right? Remember these things? Well, what Mike Collins is basically wanting to get out there when he's asked the question is, hey, if you've been harmed by the federal government, there should be a mechanism for you to be compensated, and don't let the federal government just run over you. We don't need to be in fear of our federal government, but that's not what happened. So I say this, I don't know Dominic Box. And again, I'm not attacking anyone that was there on January 6th. This is not what this is about. But then Dominic Box goes on social media. This is Dominic Box. Mike Collins just became the first U.S. Senate candidate to publicly call for compensation for January 6 political prisoners. For January 6 political prisoners and other Americans who have been victim of political weaponization. At a campaign event in Savannah, J6 defendant Dominic Box asked Collins directly. Now, this is Dominic Box putting this up. Should Washington be held financially accountable for Americans whose lives were destroyed by the federal government? Collins didn't hesitate. When the federal government harms you, then yes, they have a liability to, that's easy. Yes. Now, I can't say enough. Dominic Box knows what he did. Dominic Box knows by showing up at that event and standing up in that room and getting a video of Mike Collins saying that, he did not help Mike Collins' cause. So let me pause so I can hear your yelling at me. Well, that was wrong. What they did to Dominic Box, that was wrong. What they did to Chuck Hand and Mandy Hand, good friends of mine down there in the 2nd District, that was wrong. What they did to this one, and that was wrong, what they did. Okay. But do you want Jon Ossoff to be, to return to the U.S. Senate? Because, see, Dominic Box knows when he shows up at this event and he holds a camera up, and he knows when he videos this and puts it out that the media is going to grab it, the legacy media, the deep state corporate corrupt media, and they're going to make all out of it they can. Now, Mike Collins, I'm going to get this correct. Sorry about that. Mike Collins, I just have to tell you, I don't know what's going on in your campaign. But if you don't know Dominic Box is sitting in the room, if you don't have a team that is pre-scanning your audience, this is where people out there are saying, well, that's what I like about Mike Collins. He just let anybody in and he takes questions from everybody. I get it. Great. That's great. But all I'm sharing with you is how it works. And all I'm sharing with you is how you prevent the media of getting their hands on something, because they're not going to ask Mike Collins serious questions. I'm going to give you a big story. I think it's an enormous story that the media really, I don't think, will cover at all, because it's a positive for Mike Collins. So Dominic Box is the individual who recently pressed Georgia GOP Senate nominee Mike Collins at the campaign event in Savannah on whether he had backed compensation for January 6 rioters. Box was convicted of a felony civil disorder and other nonviolent misdemeanor charges for his actions at the Capitol. He waited sentencing for over a year while incarcerated in the Washington, D.C. jail. So we all know about the Washington, D.C. jail. We know how these prisoners were treated, right? We know the media has done more crying for illegals, saying they've been incarcerated and they don't have proper drinking water and they only got 2 meals, not 3, and there wasn't enough toothpaste on Thursday, and it's hot in there. The media has cried crocodile tears for illegals that cross the border, that committed crimes, that are in detention centers. But these people here waited for sentencing over a year, many, and the way they were treated inside, the media, no coverage. But this is what happened. His case was ultimately dismissed by the Justice Department before he was officially sentenced, as he received a full pardon from President Trump, mass clemency for January 6th, defendants on January 20th, 2025. Now, my opinion right there, Dominic Box, take that and shut up. Okay? Just don't go to Mike Collins' event and stand up and corner him as though, I mean, the only thing you did was get the voters that are baked in the cake, as they say. He already has the base to cheer a little more. You did not add a voter to Mike Collins. And the Collins campaign, right? That's amateur hour. If you don't know, Dominic Box is in the room. And when people stand up to ask questions, if you're not prepared for that, right? Why do you think? I'm just saying, there's very few U.S. Senate candidates. Not that they won't take questions, but that they don't know, that they're not aware of who's in the room. And they're like, this, right? So, that being said, here's a letter, an open letter to Senator Jon Ossoff. This was published by the editor, Michael Morris, right? He is the Atlanta Jewish Times publisher. Michael Morris questions Jon Ossoff's voting record in terms of supporting Israel. Now, right here, I'm just going to give you the first part. The publisher of the Atlanta Jewish Times, dear Senator Ossoff, I apologize for being blunt, but please stop lying to me and your constituents. I hear you claim over and over again that you support Israel and that your support is ironclad. It is not. You vote against Israel on the Senate floor in Washington and then come home to Georgia and make this untruthful claim. Now, you can go read the entire 4-page letter that was sent to Jon Ossoff saying, stop lying about your support for Israel. And what is really, to me, scorching on this, Jon Ossoff is Jewish. But that's not gonna make the rounds. Now, let's answer the question that was asked about Rick Jackson and Mike Collins campaigning together. What Georgia Republican Tillman rally revealed ahead of November. So remember, over in Rome, Georgia, in the 14th district, right? I won't take a lot of time, but over in Rome, Georgia, in the 14th district, the Tillman rally, Floyd County, Mike Collins and Rick Collins both attended that rally. And Mike Collins and Rick Jackson took a picture together, but they both attended that rally. Now, I explained this the other day, and I'm going to show you this. I wrote an article. Today is August 12th. I wrote an article August 10th, 2 days ago, Monday. Today is Wednesday, Monday, and I explained what happened Saturday, and I knew this was coming. I explained what happened Saturday, why Rick Jackson showed up at the event with Mike Collins, why they took a picture together, thumbs up, because it's the 14th district, right? And Mike Collins, what he really has in the 14th district, which, again, as always, I share with you, it's a plus R19 district, the largest plus R populated Republican vote in the state of Georgia. Formerly Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, who is trying to start a third party, right? And she is trashing President Donald Trump. This is Mike Collins' backyard. This is the backbone of Mike Collins' vote. And that's the base that Rick Jackson needs. So, Georgia Democrats press Rick Jackson to denounce Mike Collins, right? Hey, will you denounce Mike Collins? Will you denounce Mike Collins? I'm running for governor. But that's what they keep doing. You see, I told you this in my article a couple days ago on the split ticket. I told you this in the article about the two mayors, Republican mayor of Valdosta and the Republican mayor of Tifton, coming out and endorsing Jon Ossoff. I told you that. I told you they were trying to create the media an illusion that it's going to be a split ticket. Vote for Ossoff and then Rick Jackson. But really what the media is doing is if they can stay on Mike Collins' throat and not let him up for air, and this recent Dominic Box, I mean, I'm like, please, I mean, call me. I say this tongue in cheek, as they say, so don't go out there and quote it. I'll run the damn campaign. I mean, I'm just saying, don't take that wrong. I'm not being arrogant, but I know enough to scan the room. I know enough to know who's sitting there. Do you know why I go to the majority of all the events I go to? Do you know why? Just to see who's in the room. That's it. I can figure out different positions and things going on and what's coming down the road just by seeing who's in the room. I do it all the time. So that being said, right? Georgia Democrats press Rick Jackson to denounce Mike Collins. So here it is, right? Here is Rick Jackson and Mike Collins together in the 14th District at the Tillman rally in Rome, Georgia, Floyd County, 14th District, okay? I keep saying 14th District. It's important, folks. That's why. But anyhow, here they are, thumbs up, right? Why did the media go after Rick Jackson again this morning at the press conference? I shall explain, as I often do. So this morning at the press conference, right? Greg Bluestein, Rick Jackson on whether he will campaign with Mike Collins in a tandem ticket. And Rick Jackson said, well, first of all, focus is the way it's been successful. First of all, focus is the way I've been successful. So I'm focusing on the race, period. From the standpoint, there's no other agenda other than whatever is going to take to win. Now, that goes exactly what I said. So let me say this. They're going to ask Rick Jackson. He is in Atlanta. He's at a press conference. He is trying to revitalize areas in black neighborhoods, we'll call it that, lower economic areas all around the state, Atlanta, Macon, Savannah, Columbus, revitalize them. He has a plan, but this is the question. So let me play that for you right now. Listen close, listen very close, because you got to listen for the question he's asked first. This is C-SPAN video.
Sorry. Mr. Jackson, we've seen Keith Lance Bottoms and Senator Ossoff campaigning together, making public declarations together. We haven't seen quite the same amount as and Congressman Mike Collins. Is there a reason behind that, especially as there have been a lot of Democratic attacks that he has ties to white nationalism and remarks? Can we expect to see you guys together publicly supporting each other going forward?
Well, first of all, focus is the way I've been successful. So I'm focusing on this race, period, and from that standpoint. There's no other agenda other than whatever it's going to take to win. Look, there's no... I'm going to wait till that flies by. Hopefully that's not my helicopter. So. No, there's no room for racism or bigotry, period. If you believe what God believes, that all people are created equal in the sight of God, there is no place for anything other than respect. Our number one foundation of a value for me is respect for the individual. I treat everybody the same because I was mistreated. I don't like class systems. I'm telling everybody, if I'm a governor, you can call me Rick. I don't want there to be a perception that I'm better than you, because I'm not better than you, and neither are you better than me. That's what I found out a long time ago. So from my standpoint, we're focusing on treating everybody with respect, giving everybody an equal chance to the American dream, and nobody's going to fight harder for them than I will.
Do you think Rick Jackson will go around the state with Mike Collins and take those kind of questions side by side? No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So I'm predicting you won't see them campaigning together. And I explained to you what happened Saturday, why they were together Saturday. Rick needs that vote in that room. Rick needs that vote in the 14th district. Now, he was asked about white nationalism, right? He was asked about that. And he talked about there's no room for racism. So Rick Jackson, that's what they had to ask him about. Now, I'm going to explain to you why they're pushing that while he's in downtown Atlanta, with the background being black business owners, black voters, and the media. They show their hand all the time. They're showing their hand every single day. They show it. And so August 10th, I wrote this article. You could go check out our Substack. August 10th, I wrote this article. The 14th District Danger Zone. Why Rick Jackson finally posed with Mike Collins. Why did Rick Jackson suddenly need a thumbs up photo with Mike Collins in Rome? Go read the entire article. I explained why. All right. Now, when Rick Jackson said, he didn't say, no, I will not vote with Mike Collins. You heard him say focus, right? Their campaign's focused. And I explained that Saturday. And I said right here, MTG is building a third-party movement, and Georgia establishment Republicans are sweating. The 55-plus white voters is locked in, but where is Rick Jackson's plan for young Georgians? I wrote that, Substack, Vora, BKP, Politics, August 10th. Go read the entire article. Now, I'm going to show you exactly what I wrote in one of the paragraphs. The $200 million strategy. I wrote this. I know I keep telling you I wrote it. Like, who would write it? That was me. Yes. I make it very clear. I think when I keep saying I wrote this, what I'm really saying, and I need to stop doing it, so I apologize to you for this, but I think what I'm really saying is, if I do this every day, if you'll stay with me, pick up on the Substack, I'm filtering through and I can read their tea leaves. I make it very clear in the article here. I make it very clear every podcast that I'm voting for Rick Jackson. But make no mistake, listen to this. Make no mistake, Rick Jackson's campaign is a machine. It is. Now, Rick Jackson's campaign, they show up. They know who's in the audience. They have people scouring the audience. They have enough people looking around to point out if someone they may not want a picture with. There was a guy that used to go around, this is years ago, right? And I know this when Herschel Walker ran for Senate. And the guy's over in Dahlonega, Georgia, and I won't mention his name. But he would go around on purpose and get in line to try to get an unsuspecting candidate to take a picture with him. Yes. And many of you might recognize who I'm talking about. But he would do it all the time. He would go around, try to get in the picture line to get a picture with a candidate, knowing it was going to be controversial, knowing it would make the front page of the AJC. All right? Been doing this for years. Now, this individual followed Herschel Walker around because he had a background with the KKK, former background. He has since denounced the KKK, but he had a very entrenched background with the KKK. He knew that. Most people in the area know that. He would go to multiple locations and get in line to try to get a picture with Herschel Walker. So I know that a good campaign will have teams look for that. Right? So when I say it's a machine, it's a machine. Rick Jackson has a machine. He is approaching 200 million war chest, and we aren't even out of August, Let that sink in. He has hired the absolute dream team of political consultants, effectively buying up Brian Kemp's entire team and almost every major consultant in the state. Now, the reason I tell you that is he's not spent all this money and bought, when I say bought, every consultant he could find to be on the ground, 30,000 foot view, as they call it, to have errors and not have focus. Because of this, Jackson's campaign does nothing by accident. So I told you that in the article, that Saturday there was no accident of why he went to the Tillman rally and why he took the picture with Mike Collins. They do nothing by accident. They don't wake up and say, let's go kindly prop up Lieutenant Governor candidate Greg Dolezal or Secretary of State candidate Tim Fleming today. They don't do that like, let's help them out a little. Absolutely not. Now, you're not going to hear Rick Jackson come out and go after these candidates, but at no time do they ever have a meeting and say, oh, let's go help this one out. Now, if they have a meeting and say, this one brings X votes, this one brings X votes, are they votes we already have? Yes, then let's not do it. Are they votes we already have? No, let's go do something. That's the way it works. That's what happened last Saturday with Mike Collins. Every single decision is calculated based on a simple question. Where is the win-win for Rick Jackson? So why did Rick Jackson, a candidate running an incredibly tight ship, suddenly need to take a chummy thumbs up photo with Mike Collins? I explained it in full detail. A, Burt Jones did very well in the 14th district. B, Sean Harris, the Democrat candidate running for Congress over there, has name recognition, holding town halls about data centers. We'll go over that in our next segment, right? He's doing very well, bringing out the Democrat vote. 3, MTG is trying to do everything to collapse the vote. It started third party. I don't know what the last one would be, but 14th district. So win-win for Rick Jackson. So as he says here in this picture, right? There's no other agenda other than whatever it's going to take to win. That's it. I told you that Saturday. I'm going to get hit with something if I say I told you that one more time. Now, here's another article you may be interested. Is Marjorie Taylor Greene the Democrats' best weapon in Georgia? Part 3, the cracks in the party, right? Keisha Lance Bottoms. So, you see, Rick Jackson is going into Atlanta. Now, I don't know if Atlanta black vote is fool's gold for Rick Jackson. I don't. I don't know if he thinks he can pull enough Atlanta black vote. He seems to be, not that he's not interested in Hispanic or Latino or Latina, not that he's not interested in that, or the Asian vote, Indian vote, but he seems to be very interested in building his numbers with the black voters. And the media is trying to run interference for Keisha Lance Bottoms. That's why today, right? That's why today, when he is trying to, as you can see, hold a press conference and talk about his new economic proposal, right? They're asking him questions. Are you going to campaign with Mike Collins? Are you going to do that? Or, are you going to denounce him? And how do you feel about some of the comments he made as white nationalist? So they're doing their job, the media, to try to extend. Jon Ossoff has the lead. I will only tell you this because I've brought you polling numbers, and I do think Ossoff has a large lead. But I will say this. Go into Michigan and go into Wisconsin, particularly Wisconsin's election last night, and look at the polling. Look at some of that Rust Belt, as they call it, Midwest polling that took place. Look at that. And the numbers they had for the candidates there and the actual outcome. So maybe Ossoff is, maybe he doesn't have quite the lead they want you to believe. But if he does, they're trying to do everything to extend Jon Ossoff's lead. They will do anything to show up and try to block. I mean, that reporter's question with black voters, with the black community, should have been more like, Mr. Jackson, you stand here today with black business owners, entrepreneurs, and they've been waiting a long time for someone to come into their community, into their neighborhood, and look at economic development. Can you elaborate, or can someone there tell us how excited they are that you're putting this plan together, one of the business leaders, something for the community? So everyone gets an opportunity, every Georgian, small business, minorities. No. Are you going to campaign with Mike Collins? So now that being said, okay, we know why the media is trying to run interference for Keisha Lance Bottoms and extend Jon Ossoff's lead. We know that. Is Rick Jackson chasing fool's gold in Atlanta? There will be a record turnout of Democrat voters, especially a record turnout of black women voters. Record number. Will black men vote for Rick Jackson? Or let me just put this out here, are black women who are married to black men, you never know how to put something these days, people just go crazy, but are black women that are supporting Keisha Lance Bottoms married to black men? I'll just say it. Can the guy see a minute of peace? Is there a guy somewhere saying, I think I'll vote for Rick Jackson, and there's a black wife saying, no, you will not? And he says, well, I'll vote for Keisha just so I can see peace in the house. I don't know. I know I'm getting in trouble there. I know I'm dancing around, touching on some things maybe I shouldn't. But that's what I do. I look at the reality of these campaigns, the reality of what these voters really look at, and what could cause turnout and cause a certain demographic to go and vote for a certain candidate. I look at all of it. Everything's up for grabs when you're going for a vote. Trust me. So that being said, when I come back, I'm looking at the proposal. So I want to talk about two campaign proposals right now. And I want to know if Rick Jackson is headed in the right direction. I like a lot of things he's doing, but I do have some concerns. And obviously, I have my concerns on Keisha Lance Bottoms. Don't we all have concerns? Martha's Vineyard Keisha, right? Martha's Vineyard Keisha. That's who she is. Wow. So when we come back, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about data centers. I'm going to talk about what does the right Alabama governor's race have to do with the Georgia governor's race? Just saying. Now, every state, well, I can't give it away right now. Will the Republicans be able to get across the finish line with a campaign strategy? There's a monster under the bed. Can Republicans campaign? There's a monster under the bed. DSA, socialism, communism, Keisha Lance bottomism. Ooh. Bottoms up. I probably should quit. So, we're going to take a brief break and we'll be back soon. Our next segment.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future. Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with U.S. Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call U.S. Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
And we're back. I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics on Voice of RuralAmerica.com. How are you? First, as always, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone that shares our Substack. I want to say thank you to the paid subscribers on Substack. At the bottom of our Substack videos and articles, there's an opportunity to subscribe and pay. I think it's $8 a month. I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. And just thank you very much. You can follow us on Voice of Rural America Facebook page, X, YouTube, and Rumble. And our Substack is Vora BKP Politics. So I want you to keep something in mind. There's a couple things. One, right? Anytime you're watching a podcast and ask the question, who is paying them and who are they performing for? My focus is 100%, not 99, not 98, not 97. We'll throw in a 96. 100% performing for, I don't like the word performing, but it's for this audience, no one else. But always remember out there, who is paying these people and who are they performing for? Keep that in mind. You know, I want to set some things up before we get started on our next segment of the day. This is not Bash Donald Trump Day. I said that earlier. But I'm asking nicely, President Donald J. Trump, enough with the reflecting pool. I don't want to hear it anymore. Stop with the reflecting pool. Okay? Repair it, clean it up, restore it, get it back together. I don't want to hear the reflecting pool anymore. That being said, I'm working on, and there's a couple things. You can't just throw something out and not, go into great detail and explain. And I worked on this for about 2 hours. I got about 2.5 hours in this today, a couple hours the other day. And I'm putting this together because we keep talking about affordability. All right. You keep hearing affordability. And remember when President Trump came out on April 2nd, 2025 to the Rose Garden and held these reciprocal tariffs up and said, this is Liberation Day. Remember that? I think he called it Liberation Day. And we put all these tariffs in place. Well, I'm going to tell you that I was positive about the tariffs. I was hopeful about the tariffs. I understood what the president was doing or what he wanted to attempt to do. As they say, no pain, no gain. And good initiative, poor judgment. But the tariffs did not work and will not work. And I'm going to go into full detail on that and explain why. And again, this is not attacking President Donald J. Trump, but I'm a little caught off guard that he went this direction, knowing what I know. Okay? Tariffs didn't work, cannot work. I supported the tariffs, was hopeful about the tariffs. And there's a reason why they don't want to talk about affordability and the strategy they had to turn the economy around. I'm going to go into full on that. And there's something else I want to talk about. 1913, right? Is it 1913? And I'm going to look at this again. I have it here somewhere. Give me just a second. Yes, 1913. What does 1913 have to do with 2026 and the economy today and why I'm concerned about this upcoming election and DSA, Democrat Socialists of America? How do you put all that together? Well, I will. So I will in our next program. So I told you I want to talk about a couple campaign strategies here. And let's go into Rick Jackson, the Republican candidate for governor here in Georgia, and the press conference he held today in downtown Atlanta. Now, Rick Jackson is attempting to bring in the black vote in Georgia. And he is countering Keisha Lance Bottoms because that is, and I'll say this, when you start studying all the demographics and the voters, Rick Jackson has the 55 plus white vote locked in, right? 55 plus white vote is locked in for Rick Jackson. Rick Jackson does not really need to be out there trying to bring in the 55 plus white vote, male especially, or white vote in general. It's baked in the cake, as they say. So that's why I'm a little confused. I went to the Pickens County in Jasper, Georgia rally this past Saturday, and it was primarily 55 and older, much older crowd. And I'm listening to his campaign speech, and it didn't seem like he's stretching out and he's still preaching to that choir. Okay, I get that. So now on the flip side, Keisha Lance Bottoms has the black female vote. Bottom line. No pun intended, bottoms line. But Keisha Lance Bottoms has the black female vote. That's just all there is to it. With that, she's hoping to have the black vote cornered. Now, Keisha Lance Bottoms cannot do anything, in my opinion, absolutely nothing to counter Rick Jackson and put him back on guard for the 55 and older white vote. I don't think there's anything Keisha Lance Bottoms can do to move the needle in that demographic. So I think Rick Jackson can actually move away from that voting block and not get hurt. But on the other hand, he can do things to get into Keisha Lance Bottoms voting block, black female voters and black male voters. He can do that. And he has Keisha Lance Bottoms on guard there, whether they admit it or not, the Democrats admit it or not. Now, is the black vote, minority vote in Atlanta fool's gold for Rick Jackson? Is it? Does he have advisors telling him because of what happened with Keisha Lance Bottoms allowing Atlanta to burn and just a disastrous administration in Atlanta that the citizens of Fulton County and the city remember? Very possible that he can nudge in and chip away at that voting block. And the reason we know that Keisha Lance Bottoms, it's getting to her is because, the toast on Lennox. When, the toast on Lennox, when Rick Jackson visited that restaurant, a black female entrepreneur, Keisha Lance Bottoms lost it and her supporters. Then when Rick Jackson went to the other restaurant owned by, is it Old Dad's Original or what, or Big Daddy's Original? I forget the name of that restaurant. We can look that up, the name of that restaurant, when we do our fact checking for our article. And Keisha Lance Bottoms and her supporters, they lost it over that. So we know he has her backed up and on guard where that voting block's concerned. So he goes down there and he puts a proposal together. The economic proposal aims to expand Rick Jackson's political reach. And this is, he released this. You can go read the entire proposal. Rick Jackson's opportunity agenda. So I like this opportunity agenda. The Legacy Corridor Initiative, restoring historical commercial districts, growing minority-owned businesses, building lasting wealth. Right? The legacy wealth restoring. And it would be Sweet Auburn District in Atlanta, Golden Blocks in Augusta, West Broad in Savannah, Liberty District in Columbus, Harlem District in Albany, and Cotton Avenue in Macon. Here's the quote. Rick's commitment. Being the #1 state for business means nothing if it does not apply to all of our businesses and all of our neighborhoods. Rick Jackson. So, the legacy worth restoring, the Legacy Corridor Initiative, the opportunity agenda. Now, he lays the entire plan out. You can go read it. All right. Lower cost for workers and small businesses. Make government a partner, not an obstacle. Build the workforce local businesses need. Grow minority priority one. Grow minority-owned businesses and local ownership. A navigator in every corridor, someone that is what they call a navigator, an actual person, right? On day one, Rick will create a designation by executive order and assign a person with a phone number, not just a brochure or website, to coordinate Georgia's 17 small business development centers, licensing, MBE certification, financing, and state contracting. Open doors to capital and ownership. Restore historical buildings without pricing out the people who stayed. Means no gentrification of the area, Turn state purchasing and incentives into local growth. Help legacy businesses modernize and endure. So Rick Jackson holds a press conference. He lays this entire plan out. It's very detailed, very detailed. I don't know if you agree with it or not. We can break the plan down, tell you more about what it sounds like to me. Does it work? But it does sound like his campaign is focusing on what we would call the forgotten areas. Now, will these forgotten areas, will the word get out? Is this an aggressive plan? And will this translate into votes? Will this translate into votes? Because Rick Jackson, he's spending a lot of money. He has data. They sit there. They work on data every single day. They know where the voters are, registered voters. Will this translate into votes, black votes, minority votes, black women, black men. Will this pay off at the ballot box? Bottom line, he is making a move that Keisha Lance Bottoms will have to counter. She will have no choice. Going right in her backyard, right in her wheelhouse, while she's at Martha's Vineyard in her home, her multi-million-dollar home. Rick Jackson is in downtown Atlanta with this economic development plan for minority areas. So, that being said, there you go. So that's his plan. So I want to shift gears because there's a voting block out there, and there's several, and I've said this over and over. It's not just Republicans right now. It's the entire electorate. There is the DSA over the Democrats, and there's the ones that say, well, we're just Democrat socialist, or we're Democrat Socialists of America, or we're moderate Democrats. We're conservative Democrats. I've heard everything. And then you have your different fractions of the Republican Party or independents looking at different candidates for different reasons. It's scattered all over the map. It has to be a nightmare for data analysts every day for a campaign right now. How do I get this voting block? How many votes will it alienate in this voting block? Will they come together to put me over the top, says the candidate. It's a tough task right now, especially in Georgia. I don't know other states, but in this state right here, we have the election integrity lane, which has narrowed, not to upset people, but has narrowed. But that is a lane. They're going to vote a certain way. But there's a voting block right now the Democrats are zeroing in on. And I'm not for sure if Republicans, this right now I think is very large. Because Republicans are not focusing on affordability. All right. And I get it. I get what Rick Jackson did today, and I like it. But if you create the opportunity for someone to open a small business, I'm with you. I'm a capitalist. And if they're able to hire someone, that's great. If they're able to hire 10 employees, that's great. But those are things that you have planned for tomorrow. And I get it for everyone out there yelling at me. Well, Rick is actually putting some solid structure together that we need in this state. I could not agree more. But when you discuss what they will do for you, a candidate that results in tomorrow, we live in an instantaneous world. We just do. We created this instantaneous world. I mean, we want Google search results. I mean, if it took 8 seconds, we'd be upset. We want high-speed internet. We want to order at 1 o'clock and have a drone drop it off at our front porch from one of the box stores by 4:30. This is no joke. This is happening, the instantaneous world that we live in. So if a politician is not campaigning on what are you going to do for me today? I just got out of the store. You know, milk is $4.92, just throwing it out there. Box of cereal was, almost $7. Between the two, I can't go in with a $10 bill and get a box of cereal and a gallon of milk for my kids. Things like that, okay? So people going to the ballot box, going to the electronic voting device, whatever it may be, paper ballot, What are you going to do for me today? How will it affect my life today? So there's a voting block out there that I think Democrats are cornering, to me, or have the opportunity to corner, that Republicans are not going down that lane the same way. And I will tell you what, it's a national Democrat. They got together and they do the polling. They understand what moves you emotionally. I told you this before. There's programs that they can go through social media and they can get the algorithm of what is moving you emotionally, what words, what's the subject of the day. And Democrats are in lockstep right now with one subject, or three, might I say: affordability, flock cameras, and data centers. Now, data centers, that's a voting block. And the 4 data centers is that voting block is not as strong, as the against. And when you tell someone a data center is going to enrich your community, most people, the voters out there, yeah, you told me that before. Yeah, you told me the debt was going to go down. Yes, you told me when we put these tax credits out for this company, it was going to do X. Yeah, that's where people are. Whether you like it or not, whether you get angry, they're like, but you don't understand. We have to beat China. We have to. And we're racing China to stay ahead of them. And this will bring in so much money. Why, you'll never pay taxes again. They don't actually say that. They don't. Just want to make sure. But they say, oh, it could alleviate your tax burden. Well, Mr. Politician, you're the one that put the tax burden on us in the first place. Thank you. So the data centers come around and they're going to be the hero to alleviate our tax burden? No, they're going to bring in, according to them, so much money, everybody will be happy. Yes, your county, your city. There'll be new fire trucks everywhere you go. There'll be new police cars everywhere you go. New parks, new walking tracks, pickleball courts, and you won't pay no taxes. Is it utopia? Is that what it's called? It'll be great. Okay, got it. Now, moving right along, what does Alabama have to do with Georgia? Now, I'm going to show you this. This is Doug Jones over in Alabama. And he's a former senator. He won a special election. He did win an election in Alabama as a Democrat. I think he served 2 years before it flipped back Republican. You have Tommy Tuberville there, Alabama U.S. Senator, and they're both Doug in the blue tie. Doug Jones is running he is the Democrat, and the red tie, Tommy Tuberville, is running, he is the Republican for governor. So I want to say this. Doug Jones he's well known in Alabama. I'm going to play his interview, right? I'm going to play his interview. All right, here he is. Doug Jones, Democrat, on his run for Alabama governor. I'm going to play this for you for one reason. I want you to hear what he says in these segments. And it's going to be about about 4 minutes for each one. All right. No, not 4 minutes for each one. My apology here. Let me get this straight. So here we go here. And we get that out of there. Sorry about the delay.
To break about data centers, but what are you hearing on the ground? Is it what we're hearing everywhere, that life is just too expensive?
Yeah, that's a big issue. It has been from the very beginning. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that. You know, electricity bills, gas prices, farmers have been hurting a lot. That is all a huge issue, just the umbrella of the affordability issues. But I'm going to tell you something, guys. The data center issue has become front and center. It crosses political lines. It crosses zip codes. It crosses economic lines. You name it. It has become a huge issue. Healthcare is always an issue for us. Education is always an issue. But I think people are ready for a change, too. That's what we're seeing and hearing more and more, that people are just fed up with the government, whether it is Washington, D.C. or Montgomery, Alabama. They're just fed up and they want to change.
All right, now let me remind you, he's running for governor of Alabama. There's a reason I'm doing this. He's the Democrat candidate over there. He's talking about data centers. Now, trust me, the data center issue is a Democrat national issue. They have picked up, this is a voting bloc. And when he says it crosses party lines, it does. I mean, these rallies are enormous, okay? Now, I always say not to upset you, but as you listen to this, you're not going to find him say things that are not true. And they are. I will push back anytime I hear them say something that's not true. Let me continue the next one.
Keep in mind, first of all, I think it's easy to do when you're talking about your kitchen table issues in Alabama. Those things are affecting everybody on the daily basis, whether it is a data center going up next door or whether it is the price at the gas pump, and they're seeing these endless wars. And I also point out that the recent polling that we've seen, I mean, consistently is actually showing Donald Trump underwater in Alabama. He has plummeted in terms of his favorabilities. People do not like what they're seeing going on, and they know that he came into office promising to lower prices, promising to make their affordability issues a lot better, and he's not done any of that. He's spending all his time on his vanity projects and fighting a war overseas that's causing gasoline and fertilizer prices for farmers to go up. So I don't think it's as big a lift as people think, and besides, in 2020, when I lost to Tuberville, we got 900,000 votes.
Folks, fertilizer is going up. It's going up dramatically, right? He says the gas pump, war, Trump's underwater in Alabama. I know I'm focusing on Georgia, but I'm telling you, Democrats have rolled out this playbook for every state. Trump is underwater. He made promises. For those of you out there that support Donald J. Trump, okay, this is true. It's very true. And they are zeroing in on this. Now, let me continue.
If you could talk about red states and data centers and what the sort of relationship is, because this really feels like an 80-20 issue.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And you know, look, conservative states like Alabama and the South, they've also got this libertarian streak. They don't want the government intruding on their lives. It doesn't matter whether it's the flock cameras that they're seeing everywhere now or whether it's AI, data centers or whatever. And they don't like people coming in and doing it in secret. That's a huge piece of all of this. Nobody is really against technology. Everybody wants to see us progress. But what's been happening is that these guys are coming in, these big tech companies, they're waving $1 around like it's, crazy. And so many Alabama politicians start, grabbing it like a cat chasing a laser pointer. And they're not telling the people anything about it until it's too late. They're signing non-disclosure agreements. They're signing agreements to shred documents after it's over. And that's what's got people so upset. They want to know, and they deserve to know about what's going on in their communities on the front end. And let them make a decision. Let them do that cost benefit analysis. They don't want their power bills going up. They want to protect their water. They want to protect their land and the quality of life in their communities. And that's all they're asking. And that's why I'm calling for a 1-year moratorium to give a chance to put those guardrails in place for the people of Alabama.
You heard 1-year moratorium and guardrails. You heard 1-year moratorium and guardrails. Now, Democrats are not coming out and specifically saying we're going to shut down every data center. But I'm watching people put on social media where they actually cheer that their county commissioners put a moratorium on, or their city council put a moratorium on the data centers. And that's the pressure that people are putting on. So they see this, the Democrats see this. Now, the other thing the catch is guardrails. They keep saying the guardrails: water, air, pollution, electricity. Now, what did he say? Flock cameras. He threw it out there. Doing it in secret. Doing this in secret. Chasing a dollar. It's too late. The announcement is after it's too late, where they've signed NDAs in secret and signed NDAs agreeing to shred documents. Now, these are things you tell me. You tell me. Are you hearing? He might be Doug Jones. Might be Doug Jones. Might be a Democrat. Might be running over in Alabama. But what are you hearing him say that you don't connect with? And see, Republicans, that's a voting block. That is a voting block. And I'm going to go with the next one. One more.
Well, look, Joe, there's a big difference between a manufacturing plant that has the ability to expand like Mercedes-Benz, bringing in a bunch of jobs, and other industries that support it, and a data center that's a storage facility that's not going to have a whole lot of jobs. It's not going to have anything except 8 football fields worth of concrete, and that's about all you see. People just want to know. No one is opposed to tech. Everyone wants to see the state, the country progress under technology. We just want to make sure it's done the right way. There are absolutely no guardrails right now protecting the community in Alabama. And people just deserve to know. That's the whole thing. You can slow this process down. You can put a moratorium on it. Put those guardrails up and give people an opportunity to do that cost benefit. See what each company is going to bring to those communities, and let that community decide whether it's worth these big old massive concrete buildings or whether they would like to keep their pristine land. That should be their decision. Yeah. It should not just be a matter of money. If you're from
Now, again, when I started this, I said to you, I know you're going to wonder, why are we going over to Alabama and talking about the Alabama governor's race? What's that got to do with Georgia? Look, Sean Harris, I'll get there in a minute. Sean Harris running as the Democrat congressional candidate in the 14th district. We've said it over and over. He keeps holding packed data center town halls. Packed data center town halls. And this is crossing party lines. Republicans are going to these meetings. Democrats are going to these meetings that's concerned about their water and their electric bill and the environment and humming. Independents are going to these meetings. These meetings are packed. This is, and I will throw the flock camera, but data centers is now a major voting block. And I don't hear Republicans when I basically saying anything. I mean, they are telling you it's the goose that laid the golden egg. You're supposed to accept that in your town. If the water is brown, or you are supposed to believe, and I'm going to go to Georgia, you're supposed to believe Georgia Power, that they won't go up. You're supposed to believe politicians, that they're going to protect you and put the guardrails in place and guard you from anything that would, change financially, change your life. They're going to come between you and this big, ugly, billion-dollar corporate data center and make sure you're protected. You're going to look to politicians to do that. Your water's going to be clean. And not to mention, it is the goose that laid the golden egg. And when it lays the golden egg, the people that get the gold, there's an old saying, those that have the gold make the rules. Well, I'll be damned. So the people that are going to get this golden egg, now we're supposed to trust them to give us, give us a little. Please, can I have some more? Can I have a little of the golden egg? Please, can you drop some of the shillings, the shekels, or whatever they are out the window for me? That's what all we're led to believe. And Republicans are not really addressing this head on. Rick Jackson actually cannot. He can't exactly address it in a lot of ways because he has investments in them. So let's go. I think this is my last one I'm going to play. Then we'll get to Keisha Lance Bottoms.
From Alabama, and a politician in Alabama tells you that something's going to be a gold mine, you need to be asking the question. If you're from Alabama and a politician in Alabama tells you that something's going to be a gold mine, you need to be asking the question, who's getting the gold and who's getting the shaft? That's the big issue right now. I think people need to know, have the transparency. They need to know who is bringing this. Right now, it's a whole bunch of shell companies, and you can't tell who's going to make the money. People want to know that. They want to know how they're going to be protected, how these representations are going to be enforced, whether it's environmental or whatever, going forward. That's a big piece of this.
What did I just tell you? What did I just tell you? Right? Who gets the gold? It's like he said, I know. Well, he's a Democrat. Why are you showing us this Democrat from Alabama? Why we vote R. Okay. I don't care what letter is behind Doug Jones' name when Doug Jones says that we're sitting here wondering who gets the gold. They keep telling us this is a gold mine. Who gets the gold? And shell companies that we really don't know where the money's coming from, where it goes to, and where to trust all this. Just trust me. Well, there's a new one. Just trust me. Really? So I'm very concerned, and I will tell you this. I am very concerned on who is, addressing this voting bloc on the Republican side. And I mean, Republicans right now, I do think, I know Rick Jackson's trying to put some policies out there that he could sink his teeth into and talk to voters about. But at the same time, Republicans, to me, their campaign is there's a monster under a bed. So let's go with Keisha Lance Bottoms.
For a Governor Bottoms, what would be the future of tax breaks for data centers, and what regulations would you propose for new data centers?
I just want us to pause. I want us to gather all the information, factual information, and then make a determination on how we move forward. I can tell you, when I'm moving around the state, a lot of people are concerned about the environmental impact. They're also concerned about the rising cost of utility bills. But I've also talked with some leaders, especially in our rural communities, who are saying that having data centers there helps them balance their budget. So I am respectful of everyone's thoughts on it, but at the end of the day, we got to separate fact from fiction. And we don't have enough facts on data centers to make an informed decision on how we move forward. We need a pause.
To break.
Okay. You know, the gift, as I always say, the gift is the fact that Keisha Lance Bottoms is the Democrat nominee in Georgia to Republicans. She is a gift, and she has trouble stringing together her thoughts on a subject. You know, she cannot articulate the message quite like Doug Jones, Democrat candidate for governor in Alabama. But what I'm showing you is they all have the same playbook and they're dialed in. And as she said, put a pause. Now, I think the Democrat Governors Association, and I do think she's meeting with them right now. All right. I think the Democrat Governors Association is meeting with Keisha Lance Bottoms right now, because when I say nothing more, right close to the very top, the Democrat Governors Association would love to add Georgia to their list. That would just be a major prize, a real strike in the South. Virginia's not a strike for a Democrat any longer. We still hold. We now have Louisiana, Texas, as far as governors, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee. We don't have North Carolina. It's creeping downward. But that being said, I know this for a fact. The Democrat Governors Association is talking to them and trying to work with Keisha Lance Bottoms right now to see if she can articulate the same message that Doug Jones is articulating over in Alabama. Now, whether you like it or not, these commercials, will play in some areas. His commercials will play in some areas in Georgia. Georgia and Alabama share a very long state line, and there will be some bleed over of his commercials and the PAC money that they put into the Alabama. Now, Keisha Lance Bottoms will not have to do all the talking because she cannot articulate the message like Doug Jones here, but big special interest groups, big money PACs will pour money into the state in everything he told you on commercials. So that is coming in. And like I said, I am telling you now, that is an enormous, and I do mean enormous, question I have for, here is the statement that was put out. Here's Keisha Lance Bottoms. Here is her statement. Fact, Keisha Lance Bottoms, fact, I have called for a pause on new data center construction until Georgia has a comprehensive plan to protect our power grid, water resources, and taxpayers. Rick Jackson has made part of his multi-billion, Rick Jackson has made part of his multi-billion-dollar fortune by investing in data center construction and has publicly said he is an investor in data centers. That's from Keisha Lance Bottoms' campaign site there, one of her social media platforms, Keisha Lance Bottoms. So I'm just telling you now, this is a voting bloc that's dialed in. And when I say Republicans want to talk about there's a monster under the bed, the DSA, I get it. I get it. Burning down Atlanta, liberal left, the fear. I'm with them 100%. But you can't say there's a monster under the bed if we don't talk about how the monster get under the bed, and can we get the monster out from under the bed into the daylight and eradicate the monster. You got to do all that. So how'd the monster get under the bed? Can we flush that monster out? And when we do, will our politicians have the guts and courage to do what they need to do to eradicate the monster that's under the bed? I know that sounds silly, but it's as simple as can be. So that is the Republican challenge right now. Pete Buttigieg endorsed Keisha Lance Bottoms with an eye towards 2028. The potential 2028 presidential candidate says Georgia is a purple state trending blue, as he deepens his ties to Democrats in battleground states. So Pete Buttigieg is in the battleground state of Georgia, campaigning for Keisha Lance Bottoms, endorsing her. This is an interesting one, and this goes right back to what I've said. Republicans trying to tie up. There's a lot spinning around this, a lot of rumors, so be careful. And this article, I will tell you this, and I know this for a fact, I've checked into this. AJC Politics, Trump tries to broker truce between Jackson, Jones after bitter GOP primary. Standing in the way are a pair of defamation lawsuits filed by the two candidates against each other. This article from Greg Bluestein saying that Trump's trying to mediate a truce, broker a truce between Rick Jackson and Burt Jones. He cites 3 unnamed sources that this is taking place, but nobody has come forward. And just stay tuned on this one. Stay tuned. You see, Keisha Lance Bottoms, the media is not, do you think the media is asking why Michael Thurman's not on the campaign trail? Right? I will say this right now, this is the best example I can give you. Do you think the media is out there saying, why is Michael Thurman not on the campaign trail out there with Keisha Lance Bottoms? Who's going to mend that fence? Why is Jeff Duncan going to get out and campaign with Keisha Lance Bottoms? Is that going to happen? Right? Will the other young man, and I say young man, he was a state senator, I forget his name right off, will he go out and campaign with Keisha Lance Bottoms? Just saying. And instead of asking if Keisha Lance Bottoms and John Ossoff are going to campaign together, like they keep asking Rick Jackson if he's going to campaign with Mike Collins, why don't they ask Keisha Lance Bottoms if she's going to have a campaign event with Rua Roman, who campaigned for Mondani, right, in New York, campaigned for Abdul El Sayed in Michigan, right? When are they going to ask Keisha Lance Bottoms if she's going to campaign with Rua Roman? That's okay. Rua Roman is running for Georgia State Senate, District 7. Don't look for the media to give us any space whatsoever to get our message through. All right, folks. I think I'm going to take a break. I really do. I think what I'll do is I'll take a little break, get ready for our next article coming up. I want to cover, like I said, the tariffs. I want to cover the tariffs. And I want to cover why they will not work and did not work in great detail. I think I'm going to cover that. Just saying. And like I said, let me give you a couple of my one-liners. No pain, no gain, right? If you don't put a tax in place, you can't campaign on cutting taxes, right? Exactly. Let's see. I feel your pain. When you're watching these people on these podcasts and you're watching these people on social media that's trying to just put stuff out there, remember who is paying them. Ask the question, who is paying them and who are they performing for? Always ask that question. Let's see why tariffs don't work. Let's see, politically unprofitable, and political posturing. We got a lot to cover. So I'm your host, BKP. You've been watching BKP Politics. I'm going to take a brief break, and we'll be back real soon.